What's going on, everybody? I'm back with another video. This video is going to be looking at the new defensive setup from West Ham and what we can learn from them. This tactical analysis will be looking at how they played versus Brighton and some tweaks that they made that we can take away and look at in a conceptual way and learn something from. And before we get into that, be sure to subscribe to the channel to get updates on this new app. Let me know on Instagram if you like it, or if you want to use it. I can make that happen. Just follow me and DM me and I'll answer. And check out both my books. Links are in the description below, as well as a link to my tactics course. So be sure to check all that out. And let's get right into the video. So West Ham played in a 4-1-4-1 as we see in red. So the front three triangle between the two eights and the lone striker were tasked to deal with this box from Brighton in a 2-2 build-up. The wide players were oriented towards the fullbacks, but mainly they would block the half spaces with their cover shadows until the ball was played, and at which point they could engage the fullbacks. So from here, the biggest defensive concept we'll look at is defensive fluidity around their holding midfielder. So what would happen when Brighton would circulate the ball? Oftentimes, the players would have to shift across, and the central defender wouldn't always go and cut off center backs, because if you were to do this, they would be able to skip possession and it would be more running for the center striker. So instead, he played more conservatively and looked to trap possession when possible. So from here, the holding midfielder would have to go to the ball side half space to then help the 10 who can't get down without creating a free man through the midfield. So the 10 or the 8 from West Ham was pinned. We could easily fill in either with our 8 on the far side to use our cover shadow to block the far half space, or the wide midfielder could cheat backwards and we'd still have defensive stability through the middle. So either option was okay. And if we're late, a center back can step in and we still have +1 at the back with cover in behind via our center back. So there's multiple different ways to deal with the half space. In this example, we're just going to deal with it with a midfielder dropping. So we have tight midfield connections horizontally with access to the half space and to the interior midfield, or in the attacking position between the lines. Now what would happen when the ball would be switched, especially on skip passes that would go past one line of players, what would happen is we'd be caught out a little bit as West Ham, the defensive team. The player would have to step, the wide player would be oriented. Now the holding midfielder at times could make this run all the way across to deny the third man for Brighton. So Brighton really like to play these third man passes into the half space and then look for players underneath. So to deny this, we always had to have someone occupying the half space with very tight marking. So when the midfielder would be caught on one side, the center back would be the one to go deal with it. We would shift over, and now the midfielder would shift in as the third center back. So they would operate as 3 center backs, often as this pendulum. So when there was less horizontal movement, they'd solve it by vertical movement. So now the holding midfielder would come back, and the same concept would apply. And this happened from about the 5th minute onward when the ball was played, and even if they found midfielders. So if the ball was played, they looked to go and press, and they pressed very tightly, but they were able to find a way out. And now Brighton were progressing via center back. Even when the ball is played in the center, the holding midfielder couldn't commit to either half space because we were unsure of which side play would progress on. So when it was determined, if he was too far, it'd be easier for pressure to come from behind the player in the blind spot, and now the holding midfielder would shift in. And this was a common theme and good counterbalances because it meant less running for the center backs and less decision making, and more balancing from the holding midfielder rather than engaging in duels. Then in transition, because we had multiple ways to deal with the half spaces, players were oriented out wide. West Ham were able to set more effective traps and play very compact. So when passes were played in, or even in the initial build-up with tight man marking and the center forward looking to do dual roles and cut off both center backs, they were able to have success in winning the ball back from Brighton in their build-up, and especially because of the fluidity from their two center backs and holding midfielder. It gave them a lot of different solutions to Brighton's build-up to deny them diagonal passes into the half space, rather invite them to play vertical passes that we could answer by tight man marking to deny third man concepts, and have multiple ways to get across, either screen with a cover shadow or tight man marking behind with no underneath. And then we have players on ball side of the support underneath, and we have cover through the middle as well. So either way, West Ham were able to develop these positional fluidity moments to have multiple ways to stop Brighton from progressing. Let me know in the comments what you think of the video, and I'll see you in the next one.